Thanks, John. Could you start off by introducing yourself, telling us what it is that you actually do?
Well, my name's John TALBERTH. I am president and senior economist for a small NGO based in the Pacific Northwest here in Port Townsend called Center for Sustainable Economy.
Okay, and what does that entail?
Center for Sustainable Economy is kind of straddles the divide between a think tank and a do tank. Our think tank part comes up with policy solutions, does rigorous peer-reviewed research, and kind of lays the foundation for good public policy. And then our do tank function is more about organizing grassroots leaders and scientists and educators and health practitioners and whoever may be the target group to help push those policies through.
Okay. Now, this film in general is about restoration of the climate, but there's no point in restoring it if we kind of revert to doing the same stuff that we're doing at the moment. How do you address that?
Yeah, well, our present system, our present economy is so broken down in so many dimensions, it would take hours to go through all of those dimensions. It's based on hyped up consumption and production, massive amounts of waste, handouts to the bad actors, like penalties for the good actors. So it's really messed up in so many ways. But I work at the intersection of economic restoration, like restoring a just and sustainable smaller scale, less globalized economy, ecological restoration based on getting us reversing, not just halting, but reversing the extinction crisis. And then of course, climate restoration, which is all about bringing us back down to 350 parts per million or lower, the safe zone for atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide. So I work at all three of those approaches.
Okay, just going to pause for 1 second.
Let's do it one more time. Let's pause for
Yeah.
You like that?
whatever that is.
Yeah, just cut. Can we just cut for a second? Yes. Sorry, it's just the background noise. Would just
350 is low as I could go for. Yes, diesel, it's a big problem. It's the carbon emissions, it's the health, like people like me have asthma, and like,
So you
could use that little clip, yeah.
You've mentioned the challenges and the problems. What are some of the solutions in your mind?
Well, one of the solutions I work on almost daily at this point is on forests. Forests are, nature's most important solution to climate change. I mean, everything that we're doing technologically is great. I believe in all of the above strategies on that. But nature has already given us the most effective mechanism to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and that's forests and trees. And instead of treating forests as the natural solution they are, we're treating forests like a global commodity that needs to be consumed in mass quantities. And we have people talking about mass timber buildings and like storing carbon in wood products, and 50% of the trees that are cut down are for paper and biomass and things that we could easily replace. So if we just take that demand pressure off and let forests grow to their natural ecological potential, 300, 400 years old, as opposed to managing these plantations for 25 years old, we could substantially lower carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere and get us back into that 350 and below safe zone.
Who do you push this to? Who's listening to you?
Fortunately, a lot of people are listening. Unfortunately, they've been listening to Big Timber and Big Timber's lies for the last 50, 60 years or so. Everybody realized Big Tobacco told a bunch of lies about tobacco. Everybody realized Big Oil told a bunch of lies about fossil fuels and whether or not humans were affecting climate change by burning their product. Big Pharma. People, realize the distortions on our political system and our economic system from those big corporate entities, but nobody has turned their eye towards Big Timber. And when Big Timber is central to solving the climate crisis, we really need to take a look at this gigantic corporate structure we've created all over the world for turning forests into tree plantations for mass-consumed wood products. So I work on that solution almost on a daily basis. We're having progress at the lowest levels of government, which are the most rewarding to participate in with city councils and county commissions. We're making some progress with state legislatures. We've made no progress at all with Congress, who unfortunately passed this Inflation Reduction Act that contains massive logging subsidies, just like the infrastructure bill did. Nobody's paying attention to this issue, so we've got our work cut out for us.
What do you think is the way around that?
That's a very good question. And again, I work on this on a daily basis. I work on trying to get good economics and good science out there, doing the carbon math, advocating for including the logging and wood product sector in our annual greenhouse gas inventories and our climate action programs. I don't know what else I can personally do on this issue because I'm trying to work on all the fronts. We're in court at this very moment suing the Commissioner of Public Lands, Hilary Franz, in Washington State here for running the biggest single logging program in Washington State, which is the DNR logging program. It's bigger than any private company's logging program in Washington State, so it's the biggest source of logging related carbon emissions in the state is coming from Governor Inslee's own Commissioner of Public Lands and the Department of Natural Resources. So I don't know what else I can do, but I'm doing all I can.
Okay, maybe it's a rhetorical point, but do you think it's possible to shift the discussion or the argument away from negotiating profits and negotiating survival?
We're doing our best, and for instance, we're making inroads now on these so-called beneficiaries of the logging program, which are schools and school districts and public services, which Big Timber, taking a play out of the big oil playbook, has gotten local governments and public services addicted to timber money. And so we're fighting that battle as well, but we're making progress. Like school children and teachers union, the commissioner of the public school system in Washington State is now firmly against continuing that Clear Cutting for Kids program. So we are making some progress.
What is the offer that's presented to logging and organizations like that as an alternative, or is it just demanding reduction?
Well, that's one of the most frustrating aspects of this issue is that economic well-being would be far greater enhanced, especially in our rural areas, the rural areas that are following Donald Trump, and because they feel abandoned, because rural poverty really is a big deal. They're ignoring these easy solutions. If we managed our forests well, with an eye towards capturing carbon and regrowing big trees, we'd have a booming recreation industry, we'd have a booming tourism industry, we'd have booming sustainable harvest of high quality wood products, big trees that we could harvest on a sustainable basis, and have way more jobs in the woods and in managing forests if we just move towards this climate smart forestry regime that is kind of the economically and environmentally sustainable alternative to our conventional industrial forest practices.
From where you are at the moment, where do you think we're heading?
I think we're heading in a very bad direction because while we're making some progress on reducing fossil fuels emissions, some progress on moving forward on a climate restoration agenda. It's not just about mitigating emissions. It's about pulling greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere, and there's wonderful work going on in that. But we're also making progress on changing people's minds when it comes to land management and land management practices. And so there's a whole movement on regenerative agriculture. I'm working on a movement with others on climate smart forestry solutions. So I think once we hit rock bottom, which we're kind of at right now, and we get a new generation of decision makers in who understand the science, understand economics, understand that this is about survival of life on Earth, then I think we're going to accelerate our adoption of the solutions that are already on the table. The solutions have been worked out. They're just ready for uptake. It just takes the political will to adopt them at this point.
Listening to what you're saying, are you proposing in some ways, or the things that you're suggesting lead towards the implication of a different, more equitable economic system? Is that something at the back of your mind?
It has to be. We all have to believe in a future that doesn't have corporations running the planet for their own personal profit at the expense of everybody else. And it's just a completely unsustainable system. And the issues that I work on are just a subset of that, but we're all working towards that same goal.
That's great, thanks. Yeah, so can you talk about that, the alternative system that you're proposing?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to know that the way we measure progress and the way we say, the way we talk about economic benefits and what we need to do in terms of economic development really needs to change. Right now, we're measuring progress by metrics that are all about consuming, producing at a mass level as fast as we can and generating as much profit as we can. That's the way we're measuring the performance of our economy. And it's like, so if we're spending money treating cancer and spending money on creating cancer-causing substances, it's all a big party. It's all like all the same thing. But if we intelligently actually say, what are the economic costs, what are the economic benefits of an economic activity before subsidizing it and promoting it, and decide, make a rational decision whether it's really okay to go down the road of clear cutting and producing cancer-causing substances or subsidizing fossil fuels like we just did last week through the Inflation Reduction Act. Do the costs outweigh the benefits? And if we started making intelligent decisions like that, where costs are all accounted for and benefits are all accounted for, market and non-market, what really relate to human well-being, we could start making better decisions, and we wouldn't have the decisions that are being made today to clear cut, to drill, to build new subdivisions, to like have more babies and promote people having more babies. There's like a economic test that could be put in place. Is this really in the best interest of humanity and economic well-being, or is this generating costs far in excess of those benefits? So when it comes to these forests, now we're managing forests, study after study has shown that the value of these forests from the perspective of water quality, recreation, carbon sequestration, keeping our soils fertile, keeping our land cooler than it would be under these heat waves, those benefits are 80 times the benefits of managing it for timber, yet we have state agencies and federal agencies all promoting big timber's agenda, big timber's profits. So this is where we're at a fundamental point in our economy where we're making very bad decisions based on the wrong criteria. If we flip that and use new metrics like the genuine progress indicator, for instance, that actually separates costs from benefits and takes into account environmental services and the true benefits of consumption, like a lot of our consumption decisions and the things we consume are things we don't want to consume. No one wants to spend more money on health insurance. Nobody wants to spend money on accidents and health care that's preventable. If we start separating out these negative effects, these costs of the economy versus, and not just reporting it all as a big number like GDP that if it goes up, we celebrate, then we could get to a more rational economy and make better decisions. Is that? Good, all right.